John here, and back with another Arnold review, and today we're going to talk about and review Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And what more can you say about this movie? I mean, like the first film, I don't know how much review this is going to be, but more so, sharing general thoughts. Just talk about the film for a little bit here, not really go in depth, but, I know, this is considered one of the greatest, sci-fi sequels that's ever been made. Everybody has seen the film. So I'm not going to really add anything new to, the conversation or anything new that hasn't been said before about T2. It is a classic. It's a well-made movie. It's a well-made sequel. Now, if you were to ask me, I would say back then, years ago, I would say this was my favorite. And now as I get older, I lean towards the first film more, because I appreciate the darker tones more, that 80s vibe. I liked that the Terminator was relentless and, he was a killing machine. Here he turns good. He's a protector. He's protecting John Connor. And like I said, I do appreciate the movie. It's a well-made sequel. Now, is it my favorite Arnold film? I'll be honest, not really, because there's other Arnold films I watch more, whether that be Commando, or Predator, or Total Recall, True Lies, which is a great movie, and I'll be reviewing that soon. Even Eraser, to me, is an entertaining movie. I watch that more. The thing is, I've seen this film so many times that it gets, it's burned in my memory banks. That, okay, I've seen T2 so many times, I'm like, okay, it's a great sequel. It's a great movie. It's well directed. It's well made. Before James Cameron, decided to make 52 avatars, because now we're getting 3 or 4 more of those in the next, decade. Before Titanic, Cameron directed some great movies, whether it be this film, Aliens, The Abyss, T2, True Lies. Now, I would say True Lies was his last great movie. People might disagree with that, but that's just me. So I give this movie its respect. I give this movie, the cred, if you want to say, and it deserves all of that. It's a great sequel. It's just not my favorite Arnold film. If it's your favorite, I have no problem with that. A lot of people, it may be Arnold's best movie, but it's not my favorite movie. And like I said, I'd rather watch True Lies more. I'd rather watch, Twins more. The first film more. And to be honest, before I go on too, this is where the franchise should have stopped. The first 2 movies is really all you needed. We saw what happened with this franchise. It just kept going on and on. T3 is not a good movie. There's some good action bits, and when I talk about that movie, I'll go a little bit more into it. But Genesis sucked, and Dark Fate sucked. This franchise, to me, should have ended. It should have stopped here. After this movie, this is where it should have stopped. No more. This franchise, went too far. Like a lot of franchises now, go too far. Or they end up being, just overdone, and we see what happens with Star Wars and other properties. But the plot to the film, this takes place years later after the events of the first film. Of course, in the first movie, you had the Terminator that was sent back to kill Sarah Connor and her unborn son John, who would grow up to be the leader of the human resistance against the machines in the future. And like I said, now it's years later. John is a young boy, and this time there's a new threat. You have a more advanced Terminator, the T-1000, that's made of liquid metal. He's sent back to wipe out John. So you have a more revamped Terminator that is sent back to be a protector, to protect John and, his mother, Sarah Connor. And that's the plot here. But the cast here, everybody's great. Schwarzenegger, like I said, even though I prefer his Terminator more in the first movie, he's still great here. This time around, the Terminator's a good guy. He's a protector. And really, he's a father figure to John Connor. Everybody remembers their bond, throughout the movie. Everybody remembers, hasta la vista, baby. Chill out, dickwad. So Arnold, I have no complaints about. Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor. Her character's more of a badass here. In the first movie, her character was more quiet, more reserved. But in this film, the first image that you see of Sarah Connor, she's doing the pull-ups in the institution. And Linda Hamilton really put in the work, for her performance here. It says right here, she underwent an extensive 13-week training regimen, training for 3 hours each day, 6 days a week before filming began. She went on a low-fat diet, conducted throughout the film's 6-month shoot, and actor and former Israeli commando Uzi Gal, if I'm pronouncing that right, provided her with the training for her action scenes. She also undertook judo and heavy-duty military training, learned to load clips, change mags, check out a room upon entry, verify kills. So like I said, Linda Hamilton definitely put in the work here. And it's because of her portrayal as Sarah Connor here that, she is one of the great, action heroines. I mean, her character's a badass. And you also have Edward Furlong as John Connor. And to me, he did a good job. Like I said, I really liked the bond between, him and the Terminator throughout the movie. Robert Patrick as the T-1000, shape-shifting prototype Terminator made of liquid metal. Definitely an iconic villain, when it comes to sci-fi films. Possibly one of the greatest, villains of a sci-fi movie. And apparently Billy Idol auditioned for the role, but was foiled by a motorcycle accident. Interesting. I don't know how Billy Idol would have done, but, Robert Patrick, he really knocked it out of the park. What Robert Patrick did in this movie, he doesn't really say much. It's all about the expressions. It's all about the body language. And it makes you wish that, nowadays in films, when it comes to movies like this, whether it be sci-fi, action, what have you, actors that want to play or that are casted to play villain types or whatever, they can learn a lot from Robert Patrick on how to play, a villain like this, where you don't have to say much. It's about expressions. It's about body language. It's about movement. The way that, your head turns, the way that you look at the camera, or you look at other actors. So Robert Patrick was a great villain here, as a T-1000. He really knocked it out of the park. Earl Bowen as Dr. Silverman. He comes back here from the first movie. Then you have Miles Dyson, of course, who was the director of Cyberdyne, played by Joe Morton, which would lead to the formation of Skynet. Joe Morton is a very good actor and does a good job here. And you also have some other people in the cast too that you recognize, like Jeanette Goldstein, who was in Aliens, Xander Berkeley, Danny Cooksey, who was in that show Salute Your Shorts. For those five of you that remember that show back in the day. But yeah, but again, the whole cast is great. Great special effects from Stan Winston. Uh, Brad Fiedel provides the score again. Great job with the score. The action scenes here are well shot. James Cameron, I'll give him credit here. I mean, he really knew how to, make action scenes feel big scale. And it really kept you on the edge of your seat. I mean, everybody remembers the T-1000 going after John Connor in that canal, driving this rig. And do I really need to go over every action scene beat for beat? Because like I said, anybody and everybody has seen this film more than 10 times in their life. So, I don't really see the need to go over every moment of action. But, that's the thing about this movie. It's tough to review because you could sit here for an hour or more and really go into the film and go in depth. But again, I'm not really adding anything new to, what hasn't been said about this film. And, maybe someday I will. Someday I would like to go back and, really do a more in-depth discussion. But at the end of the day, T2 Judgment Day, again, it's a well-made film. It's a well-made sequel. It's a sci-fi classic. Even 30 years later, it's still, highly regarded, and and I can understand why, but for me, like I said in the beginning, there's other Arnold films out there that I watch more, because this film is so ingrained in my mind, from watching it so many times, and over the years, watching it, I can't probably, I mean, I know it's been more than 10 times. But it's a great movie, that's well directed, well acted. The action scenes are top notch. The direction, again, James Cameron, I'll give him credit. And, the special effects, great special effects. Stan Winston does a great job, great score, again, by Brad Fiedel. And it's more of a bigger sequel. It's more of a, it's more of a bigger film. It was a big hit when it came out. The biggest hit of that year, making a whole bunch of money. And again, 30 years later, we still talk about this movie. And again, I respect the film. I take nothing away. But maybe for me, it's just I prefer other Arnold films more. But it's still a great movie. So yeah, that's my review of T2 Judgment Day. But that's it for now. Like I said, I know this is, this wasn't much of a review, but, more so kind of sharing some thoughts here. Someday I'll go back and, maybe I'll do a longer video, maybe a longer, discussion, what have you. But yeah, that's my review of T2 Judgment Day. Thank you for watching. And next I'll be talking about and reviewing Last Action Hero. So stay tuned for that and have a good day.